Suddenly snatches up an overlooked morsel of kindling. It flares up, bright and alive, before dying away, finally, to red embers. The red embers fall in upon themselves and give up their heat at last and crumble into gray ash. Outside, the wind is rising. It moans and rattles the window panes, and with it comes the snow. 1. There was a special service in church this morning, which was filled to bursting. Preacher Holden, well, now there is a storyteller. He can tell a Bible story like no one else I ever heard. His tales always seem to start somewhere in the middle, like a traveler who's been set down smack in the middle of a wood. Off he sets on his journey, sometimes looking ahead and sometimes over his shoulder. Soon enough, this thing reminds him of that, and that thing recalls another, and Preacher Holden wanders round the highways and byways of his story until, by some mystery known only to him, he arrives back where he began. His services are well attended, and not just out of a sense of duty, or a fear of being judged wanting by our neighbors. It's because one minute we're thinking how hard the benches are and what we'll be eating for our dinners, and the next we're right along with Jonah, trapped in that whale's stomach and feeling miserable as all get out. At the same time, we're feeling sorry for the whale with that great undigested lump inside him, hammering and kicking at his insides and wailing to be set free. If it's the feast for the prodigal son, our mouths water for the smell of the hot butter and cinnamon in Mrs. Jackson's apple turnovers that she's so famous for, or we'll find ourselves sitting beside the happy couple at Cana and quietly wishing for something a bit stronger than water to toast them in. When he comes to the end of the story, Preacher Holden lets us sit for a minute and digest his words. Then we come to realize that along the way he's managed to set traps for the unwary, adding in sly comments that point to those of us who've sinned somewhat and need a little gentle reminding of it. And he always ends up with a few home truths that catch out those of us that have let our minds wander away. He had plenty of those today, for it is during his story that the snow begins falling on the other side of the big arched window that we subscribed for last spring. Snow on Christmas Eve. The children are wriggling in their seats, desperate to get outside, and even the older folks, who should know better, are nudging their neighbors, jerking their heads toward the windows with their eyebrows raised and smiling themselves silly, as if they'd never seen snow before. Perhaps some of them hadn't, for it almost never snows here. We have a few days of pretty heavy rain through December and January, but other than that, even when it's cold enough to want the fires lit from breakfast onward and an extra quilt or two on the beds, most days give us blue skies and sun. The grass stays green and the crops are good and lush year-round, and the animals fare well. Our own animals do better than most, for I feed them with a generous hand. They don't amount to much, a few chickens and a goat or two. We don't have cows. I don't like to hear their lowing, a sad and lonely noise to my way of thinking. The rooster crowing good and loud, and the hens squawking over which has the choicest bit of potato peeling or the last shuck of corn, that's a noise I like to hear. I wonder if Jacob thought to shut them safely into the hen house when the snow started up. Once the thought has entered my head, I cannot shift it, and I stop listening to the Bible story and think about the snow instead. Preacher Holden announces the last hymn. It's one of my favorites. Lord, we thank thee for this day. Bustling up the aisle toward the little upright pianoforte comes Mrs. Holden, his mother, not his wife, for Preacher Holden is a single young man of but 28. He is exceeding handsome, with dark flashing eyes and brown hair curling over his starched white collar, so attendance at his church might not be just on account of his storytelling skills. But he has his eye on Betsy Mueller, a pretty girl of 18 or so. With 3 much older sisters, all long since married and families of their own, I guess Betsy's arrival was a surprise to her ma, who must have thought herself long since free of the burden of child-rearing. I know the family well. Betsy's father, Heinrich, owns the lumber yard along with my husband, and Heinrich and Jacob were young men together in Germany before they set out to advance.